What's up, Everyday Blades? Hope you guys are doing well on this cold Saturday evening. It's about 48 degrees here in Houston, Texas. That's cold for us. It does get colder, but 48 is plenty cold. So it's a good night to do a knife video. I got an interesting one for you here today. We're going to do the different types of knife locks. And even if you know all these, still may be a good video for you, because you're going to get to see some cool knives. So, also, a couple of these I'm a little iffy on, so might need you to help me out in the comments. This one, we're going to start off with a traditional slip joint. This is a Max Ace Albatross. Slip joints have been around since long before my time. And you might say, well, that's not really a lock. Well, it does lock. It's locking the blade in place. It's holding it open, so I'm going to consider that a lock. These are very handy. They worked for years, did everything everybody needed them to do, and just a good traditional design. My very first pocket knife was this knife here. This is not the exact one, but this is the same model. And of course, mine wasn't in near good as shape. I got it was half ground down. A couple of these were broken off, but I was the proudest kid in the world to own it the day I got it. One of my dad's friends gave it to me. It was one of his old beat up pocket knives, and I was damn proud of it. But slip joint, Max Ace Albatross. You see it's got a half stop, and then it closes. No buttons to push, simple. Works great. Next we have a super modern lock. This is a version of a push button. It's a push button pivot lock. One company, CRKT, I believe they call it the deadbolt lock. A lot of these have proprietary names, but several companies use them. I call it the pivot lock. You open it, push the button, sling it close. You can push the button and sling it out. Pretty neat. That's one of your more modern locks. So the pivot lock or the deadbolt. And this is the DEFCON. I can't remember which DEFCON this is. It's a good one, but I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, you can look it up. This one is a push button manual. See the button here? It's almost the same setup as a push button automatic without the spring. So you get your geometries right. This one has a flipper tab on it, and it works really well, and it's one of my favorite locking mechanisms. I wish more knives were made out of this. And this is the WE Culex. Very cool knife. I like it a lot. All titanium, blacked out. I believe it's M390. But push button manual. Most of your modern folders, high-end folders, and modern folders period, are frame locks. And for the past 10-15 years, frame locks were it. If it wasn't a frame lock, wasn't a great knife. And this was just kind of in my head, right? But I think a lot of people kind of thought the same thing. It is a great design, designed by Chris Reeves. It's actually called the Chris Reeves Integral Lock. And it works fantastic when the geometry is right. This one has a lock bar insert. You can use it without the lock bar insert, where it's titanium on steel, but your geometries have to be perfect. This one is the SRK Lamia, and it does have a lock bar insert, and the geometries are perfect. Killer knife, very expensive, but dare I say, worth it. Here's another traditional lock, the liner lock. Very similar to the frame lock, but it's an internal frame. It still has the scales covering it up. If you took this scale off of this knife, it would almost be a frame lock. Well, once you cover it up, it's a liner lock. You slide that bar over and let the knife pass through. Have to have pretty good lock geometry with these as well. These have been around a long time. When I was growing up, these were associated with cheaper knives. Now not so much, because this is a killer knife. This is the Three Rivers Manufacturing Neutron. Hard to beat, and it's a liner lock, so doesn't necessarily describe quality anymore. The Benchmade Access Lock or Crossbar Lock, and about 10 other companies have a different name for it, but it's all about the same. Most of them run on an Omega spring or circular spring. You pull this down. This is very fidgety. This has been very successful for Benchmade. Sorry, there's not a lot of room here to work with. This has been very successful for Benchmade. It was on the 940, which is a all-time, probably one of the best-selling knives of all time. I like it a lot. This is the Leon Ma Original, very important, Original Field Duty, because this one is second to none. Amazing knife. M390. The action is just forget about it. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the lock. This is a bolster lock. Very similar to a frame lock, but usually 2/3 of the lock are covered up by a scale. So there's your new, and this is fairly new too. I say new within last 5 or 10 years. Bolster lock. Leon Ma Field Duty. Original Field Duty. This knife is the Midgard Messer Netherus, and it has a traditional back lock. Buck made these famous. Push that down, close it up, open it back up, and it locks it in place. Now, these can be deployed one-handed with most knives like that. So the back locks are super strong. They've been around forever. There's one that looks like a back lock that's made by Cold Steel, which is the Triad lock. I don't have an example of that, unfortunately. Actually, do I? I do have an example of that. Haha, I knew I'd forget one. Okay, so here it looks like a back lock, but this is actually the Triad lock. And I have not opened one up to see how they work, but this is arguably one of the strongest locks in the knife community. I say arguably because if you ever talk about it, you're going to be arguing with somebody. And it ain't going to be me. I'll just agree with you. Strongest in the world. Great. Way stronger than it needs to be. I'll put it that way. But this is the traditional back lock. The Cold Steel Triad lock is a more modern version of that. So this is not exactly a lock. It's a deployment method that has a lock in it that I don't really have a definition for, so I just want to show it. This is an OTF, an out the front knife. And when you open it, it locks in place. And when you deploy it down, it unlocks. Very, very fidgety. Very, very fun to mess around with. Very functional. This one's made by Cobra-Tech. This is a high quality knife. They are making some very, very quality knives these days. This one's an M390 in titanium. Very, very nice. I mean, the action is so good. I dare say it. I think the action's a little bit better than a Microtech. I don't know about the internal workings. I haven't beat on it and tested it, but I've had it for months and used it and carried it. Not a single failure, no issues. OTF. Okay, this lock has a couple of different names, but the only one that I know of is, I'm going to call it the Shark Lock, and it's not a Shark Lock because it's on a Civivi. You pull it down, deploy the knife like that from the back here. And then to put it down, you do that. But you can also just flip it out and then reach back here, pull down on that, close the knife. Well, I think it Cold Steel calls it the Shark Lock. But this is very similar, if not identical. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I know that you will. Okay, so this one is the most unique lock that I have. Hang on tight. This is the Midgard Messer Valhalla. And I don't know that this has a name in the English language. So the patent reads, luckily they put the patent inside here for us. You can see it written down in there. It reads, Fox Knives, Maniago, Italy. It says Lockin Knife, L-O-C-K-I-N knife, all one word, Lockin Knife. Patented and licensed system is the name of that lock. These two tabs right here fold out. You push these down to release it, and as you open it, those tabs pop out and lock out. This is the Valhalla V2. This is the new version. They had an older version that worked just as good. This is a beautiful knife. The lock is unbelievably functional. This is highly collectible, and they sell for a lot of money on the aftermarket. So those are the locks that I have in my possession. The only other kind of lock that I didn't bring out was a push button automatic, side opening automatic, and I don't have one right now. I do have this clone piece of crap that does the same thing, but it's a side opening automatic. You push that out and it locks just like a push button, a manual push button, except it has a spring in it. Only difference. So if you can think of some other locks that I forgot, please put them down in the comments. We sure welcome. The more we can learn, the more we'll know, and we appreciate it. So, guys, thanks for watching. God bless you and your family. Say a prayer for our country. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thank you.